Hey, what's up everybody? Pac-Man here. Thanks for tuning into the video. Today's video is going to be about current events, tech censorship, and honestly, recent events have deeply troubled me and should be taken very seriously by everybody. These events I'm alluding to are Google and by extension YouTube, the steps that they have taken, and the new information that has actually been leaked out over the last week. Now, we've just learned that Google and YouTube have a whole different level of manipulation that they're applying to their algorithm and to searches and whatnot. What I'm going to do in this video is go over what's going on, who's been targeted, and a brief history of just where I got into this. So I first started following this issue closely, I would say, about a year ago. I'd see scattered stories on the news or on YouTube on my feed, and Google was being accused at the time by creators of bias and manipulation. Now, these creators tended to be on the libertarian and on the right wing politically. After a little time passed, everybody was saying, quit your belly aching, you're imagining things and whatnot. But whistleblowers started to come forward, and now we have a lot more information than what we originally knew about a year ago. First whistleblower. That one I saw on an interview on my YouTube feed. That one came from a Fox Business interview that Trish Regan did with him. A man by the name of Mike Wacker. And at the time of the interview, he was an engineer at Google, and he was alleging that Google was manipulating the algorithm and also manipulating the way things show up by flagging things as extreme. And again, most of those things were libertarian and conservative ideas. A couple days after actually appearing on that show, he was terminated. And he was terminated for questionable reasons. Very vague language, and when you get into interpreting the language of it, it's kind of funny. They interpreted rude and offensive language that he had used as violence and fired him for threatening violence against his coworkers. So he was gone from there, but thankfully there were more to come after that. Following Wacker was a young man that actually many of you guys may recognize if you see his face. James Damore. Now, James Damore was a University of Illinois grad. That's where he got his undergrad, and he was actually taking courses at MIT and Harvard. He was recruited before his doctoral dissertation by Google after winning a coding competition at Harvard. After having attended workshops and informal training for diversity, which they had imposed, he submitted a 10-page document with questions and critiques of the workshops, as they requested as part of each of the workshops. At the end, they would break down what was discussed, and then they recommended any questions, concerns, or feedback to be, written up and sent over to them. So he wrote a 10-page document and sent it over. The training in itself centered around the 50-50 split in gender in the general population versus the 80-20 split in male to female ratio among Google engineers. His critique centered around partially the equality versus equal opportunity argument. Is it better to artificially change things so things are 50-50, or is it better to just have more opportunity, and if things end up being disproportional, it's a part of natural human nature of what we all choose? So that was his critique in a nutshell. He submitted that in as they requested, and nothing happened for about a month. After that month passed, a group within the company called Skeptic was running the work group. They saw his critique, and it completely infuriated them. They started making complaints to immediate managers. They then went on a brigading campaign and emailed all of the upper executives, labeling him as using bigoted language and being a Nazi and whatnot, and demanding his termination. He was then subsequently fired a few days later by phone, not even in person. And yeah, he was not really given a clear answer on why he was fired. So luckily he's a young guy, very smart, so he'll be able to bounce back and live his life. But you fast forward to today. What do we got going on? What's the news? What is going on today that is making everybody go crazy? Well, the news of today is that we found out that Google's autocomplete function in its search, like when you go on their homepage and you type in a search, what is blah 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 blah, it will automatically come up with autofills for the question that you're asking. It was actually demonstrated that when you go to trends.google.com and actually look at the trends, the actual trends of what's being searched do not match what is being autofilled. What's actually being put in the autofilled is something that is being taught to the AI of, to put it in shorthand, a narrative that's being put in there that the executives at Google want pushed, instead of what is actually trending and what is factually what people are looking for. That is flat out curation. But I'll get into that a little bit later. We then found out that Google changed its recommended feature on its YouTube side of things. Now, this was extremely troubling because this is a selected group of people, and most of these people don't even fit together ideologically, politically. You got guys like Tim Pool, Steve Crowder, Dave Rubin, PragerU. I mean, these people were labeled as, I guess dangerous bigots or something like that, and are now on a list of people where the recommended feature is not working the same as it does with everybody else. What it does is if you're already subscribed to them, you'll still see the recommendations. But if you're not subscribed to them, you're put on a whole different class of priority. And each and every one of these guys have seen their viewerships go down because their videos are no longer being recommended. Now, just to give you a little bit of information if you don't know who these people are, Tim Pool he was a Bernie supporter. He was a guy on the ground covering Occupy Wall Street. He's actually a really good independent journalist, but I would say he is center-left ideologically. You got Steven Crowder, who's, he's a comedian, but he's also a, right-wing personality. And he is what I would define as definitely more of a traditional conservative. Definitely not the same as Tim Pool. Dave Rubin. If you guys don't know who Dave Rubin is, Dave Rubin actually used to be on the Young Turks. Okay, what he calls himself is a classical liberal, but how I would say he is ideologically is he's a centrist. He's a left-leaning centrist who has a strong libertarian streak. That is not right-wing at all, okay? Not at all. And, it's like, when you look at this list of people that they're labeling as right-wing extremists, most of these people aren't even right-wing, right? And how is it even determining this? Well, it turns out that they have a system known as Viacom. And what this does is it transcribes the video, it targets certain, issues and language, and then from there will label something as, as something not desirable, and then derank it. Now, this is proved through leaked document and through hidden camera. What's also happening are videos are being taken down. Tim Pool did a video about a Pinterest expose, which also, same thing. They're doing some shady stuff behind the scenes. It was taken down. Project Veritas, actually, who I've featured a lot in this this video because they came out with the expose. Their expose was taken off of YouTube. I mean, that's the same as book burning. That's book burning. Okay, you're limiting the information that can be distributed because you don't agree with it. That's not right. I mean, I don't care where you come from, that's not right. And then also, what's kind of funny about all of this is that if you turn the news stations on, surprisingly, like half of the major news corporations aren't even touching this story. And this is huge. So I guess that just tells you where they get their money from. But what does all this mean? I mean, what's it mean? You got this Jen Janai lady who's actually featured very prominently in the Veritas video, head of responsible innovations for AI systems. She's flat out saying that they're designing their system to influence the 2020 election. And they're doing that by inputting information into an AI to train it to think in a certain way and pretty much labeling anything else as wrong thinking. Right? She says this in many different ways during the hidden cameras, but she straight up says, "We all got screwed in 2016. How do we prevent that again? How do we prevent a 2016 in 2020? We're actively working on it." Do you know what that is? That's called interfering in an election, which I've been hearing a lot of over the past 3 years. So, I mean, honestly, this is something that's scary that we all need to look at. Google is a multinational corporation that's actually the largest in the world. And surprisingly has like a 50% market share of all the information in the world. Do you want them to have the power to influence your elections by algorithm? By filtering out information and only showing you what they want to see to push their narratives? Is that what you want for the future? What if power changes? What if these people's ideologies in the executive positions change? That means that they're going to be enforcing that the opposite direction. Is that okay? Do you think that's going to turn out well? I mean, these are the reasons why we limit this type of power. It's dangerous. And honestly, Google should not have the right to do this. Narrative control and manipulating public information to influence the way people think is not right. That is some dystopian crap that belongs in 1984. It does not belong in our real world. In closing, I'd like to say that a lot of what they're doing right now with limiting the way people can speak is straight up 1984 tactics newspeak. Okay? So keep that in mind and follow this story because this is very important. This may be one of the only times that I actually agree with a lot of more hardline progressives that the internet giants need to be regulated and broken up. You know what? This is a perfect example of why that is a good idea. But I'm going to leave it there. Those are my 2 cents. If you have any feedback on the video, if you have any ideas for content coming up, anything, just go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, it always helps if you leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And again, if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching and have a great day. Bye.